Hello, my friends. It's Persephone. I am coming to you on April 9th. So I know it's gotten kind of far into the month, which is hard to believe. And I haven't come on to talk about what I'm doing this month and what my focus is and all that. Part of the reason is I'm in one of those periods right now where every day something is happening. Something is happening as far as just spiritual growth and insight and messages and so it's been hard to know, like, where do I even begin? What am I going to talk about? And it's been hard to come up with like coherent words about what's been going on. So I'm gonna try to talk about some of it. So I'm gonna start with the easy stuff, right? I'm gonna talk about just like the tools and books and things like that I'm working with this month. So let's go with, so I'm doing the Art of Intuitive Tarot course. And the deck that I'm working with right now is the Wild Unknown. Beautiful. Anybody who's into tarot should be familiar with this deck at this point. It's been popular for a little while. I wasn't really into it when I first saw it, and then all of a sudden a few months ago I saw a video of somebody working with it, and like my heart just was like I must have this. So this is the deck I'm working with right now. And then I've also been focusing on developing my intuition, right? I'm doing this Art of Intuitive Tarot, and so I've been working mostly every day with this deck for myself. It's a little shiny. Trust Your Vibes, Oracle by Sonia Choquette. I apologize if I just butchered that name. Not a deck I thought I was going to be super into. I got it on this big Hay House deck sale, and it just called to me. So it's been, some big stuff coming through this deck. Maybe I'll get to it. Maybe it'll be another video. I don't know. I have gone back to a book I started reading quite a while back. Finding Your Way in a Wild New World by Martha Beck. I tried to pick up where I left off, and I realized I gotta go back. And I went back a little bit, and then I was like, oh, I gotta go back. So, working with some of this stuff. This is some deep, intense, like real magical stuff that I think you got to be ready for it. I know I wasn't then. Working with Anatomy of the Spirit, reading through this by Carolyn Mace. This book, I picked it up one night, and so I've had this book for years, and I've never, and I never read it. Honestly, I didn't really think I would read it. I don't know. I say I don't know why I picked it up, but I mean, I guess your spirit kind of knows what you need, and so, and it was like something inside me was like, just pick it up and put it in your bookshelf, and, so, and I do that a lot with books. But this one, it was one night a couple weeks ago, I just suddenly was like, I'm gonna go get that book and start reading it. And holy Moses, I feel like she wrote this book for me. Like, there have been moments where I stop and I well up with tears, and I read again and I read again, and I read this passage over and over again. And it's been that kind of experience, and I've been going through and marking things that I move on, but then I keep going back to, because it's the message, right? It's the message that I need right now. And it's sort of, I'm going through one of those periods right now where I think if you get real serious, at least this is what I'm finding for me, as I have gotten real serious about saying, okay, like I'm open, I'm here, I want to do the work, I want to grow, getting real serious about realizing that the kind of work that I want to do in the world requires a certain level of spiritual growth and maturity that I don't know. I know nobody's ever perfect, right? I'm never going to get to some kind of like perfect point where, whatever, but I do think I'm just feeling strongly that I have work that I need to be doing for a little while. Not that it'll ever end, but some stuff that I got to deal with, right? I got to clean my own house before I can help somebody else clean their house. Well, I guess we'll put it that way. So I'm working on that stuff, opening myself up to ideas around just like energy and not that I haven't been open to energy, but like for me, for a very long time in my life, I've dealt with some physical issues, some autoimmune stuff. It's been really hard to deal with, and what I've been, I think, realizing lately is that I have some underlying like emotional, spiritual, energetic work that needs to be done to make my body well, right? Because it's all connected. And I think that a lot of where some of the physical stuff for me is coming up, I think there's energetic, spiritual root causes to a lot of it. So I'm working through some of that. Big thing I wanted to talk about today, and like none of this, I didn't make any notes for this, so I'm hoping that some of this is coherent. Forgiveness. Oh boy, what a concept. Forgiveness is one of those things that, I mean, we always hear about it, and we pay a lot of lip service to it, I think, and I know for myself, like I had gotten to a point where for a long time I've understood like, yeah, forgiveness is something that you do for you. You're not doing it for the other person. They don't need you to forgive them, right? Forgiveness is something that is for the person that needs to be doing the forgiving, right? My problem has also been, how the heck do you do that, right? Because I have yet to find anybody who actually says this is how you go about the work of forgiveness. So this has been challenging. And I have stuff around forgiveness that I'm dealing with family members, and that's where I was mostly focused on healing some like childhood stuff, making peace, forgiving family members for hurting me in my childhood, I guess. And that's where I've been focused for a little while. And then today, well, let's back up to last night. I was thinking about some of this forgiveness stuff and thinking in the context of particular people in my family, and all of a sudden somebody popped into my head who is not a member of my family, not somebody who has been like traditionally significant in my life. This person is clearly significant in my life because of the effect that I'm trying to talk about this without saying too much, to the point where if people are seeing this who know this person, like I don't want to be shitty about it or whatever, you know. But we were both in a situation that was kind of like a toxic work environment, and things happened there that by the time I left after just 3 months, it was a really traumatic experience for me, honestly. I had a lot of issues around it, and deep wounds. And I find this person who was my boss in this situation keeps coming up, keeps popping up for me in my awareness, in the work that I do, things that it's hard to explain how she keeps popping up. And it always feels like like a stab in the chest or a punch in the gut, right? It's always really, like, even just for someone to say this person's name. So, and I was only at this job for 3 months, so that tells you. So kind of like on one level, people would go, that's not very significant. But I obviously, like, I keep coming back around, right, to this person. Like, this isn't something that's just going away, right? So last night, as I'm thinking about all this forgiveness stuff, all of a sudden this person pops into my mind, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Not dealing with that right now. Brushed aside. And then today, a friend of mine called me super excited. She wanted to tell me about some stuff going on, and she's like, there's this woman, blah, blah, blah. And she says her name. And I literally, like, I flipped out on her. I was like, like, I'm like groaning. These groans are coming out of my body. And she's like, oh my God, what, what happened? So, yeah. And it felt like the universe was gut punching me. That's how it felt. And it just felt like an open wound, right? So, and several months ago, this person came up for me, and I was feeling so horrible. Like, I hated feeling this way. And I tried reaching out to some people about, I really want to do the work to forgive this person because this is torturing me. And they're like, oh, well, you don't really have to deal with her. You don't have to see her. You don't have to whatever, like, just, it was basically just like, oh, just like ignore it and it'll go away. It's not going away. She's not going away. My issues aren't going away. Like, this is, something that clearly I really feel the universe is telling me that I need to deal with. So, I've been reading, in Anatomy of the Spirit, a few things lately that have been really significant to me. And, lately I've just been kind of following the rabbit, right? Down the hole, and seeing, where's this taking me? To the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. a big key for me in here has been where Carolyn Myss talks about the correspondences between, she makes correlations between the 7 chakras, the 7 sacraments in Christianity, and then also the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. It's really fascinating stuff. So, and where she starts talking about the sacraments really, really hit me, because she gives a specific example about baptism and what that signifies symbolically for us as human spiritual beings. She says that the sacraments are acts that we are meant to perform besides rituals that are performed on us. They represent powers we are meant to bestow on others as well as to receive from others. Now, if you're not familiar with the sacraments, they're really, really big in Catholicism, but there's also other traditions that have a lot of emphasis on the sacraments. It would be baptism, communion, confirmation, marriage, confession, ordination, and extreme unction, which is also like known as last rites, that kind of thing. So, okay. So we're talking about these sacraments. And if you grew up Christian, especially in a much more liturgical tradition, you're probably familiar with some of, baptism, your first communion, going through confirmation, things like that, marriage as a sacrament, right? So she says they're acts that we are meant to perform besides rituals that are performed on us. They represent powers we are meant to bestow on others as well as to receive from others. Consider the sacrament of baptism, for instance, in which a family accepts physical and spiritual responsibility for a child they have brought into the world. Our challenge as spiritual adults is to accept symbolically, fully, and gratefully the family into which we were born. Symbolically, baptism also means honoring your family and yourself by forgiving family members for any pain they caused you during your childhood. The power contained in such forgiveness is precisely the power that heals the body. I've been chewing on that for a couple of days now. And that's one of the first times I could get through it without tears in my eyes. So, working on that. But clearly I've got a lot more forgiveness work to do than just, than just that. So I went and I looked for what else she had to say about forgiveness after this stuff came up, right, about this person today. And this was really key for me in thinking about forgiveness differently, right? So she says, forgiveness is not the same thing as telling a person who harmed you, it's okay, which is more or less the way most people view it. Rather, forgiveness is a complex act of consciousness, one that liberates the psyche and soul from the need for personal vengeance. And here it is. And the perception of oneself as a victim. More than releasing from blame the people who caused our wounds, forgiveness means releasing the control that the perception of victimhood has over our psyches. The liberation that forgiveness generates comes in the transition to a higher state of consciousness, not just in theory, but energetically and biologically. In fact, the consequence of a genuine act of forgiveness borders on the miraculous. It may, in my view, contain the energy that generates miracles themselves. What have I been asking for? Magic, right? Which is the miraculous. I've been asking for healing. And it's all coming back to forgiveness. It is all coming back to forgiveness. So, forgiveness is a complex act of consciousness, one that liberates the psyche and soul from the need for personal vengeance and the perception of oneself as a victim. So I started thinking about it, and I thought about anyone that I have been harboring unforgiveness towards, right? Whether it's people in my family, whether it's this person, whether it's, other people. It's always we need to forgive somebody because they've harmed us, right? They've done something to us. They've hurt us, right? They've victimized us. And this isn't to say that people aren't victimized, right? Because this happens. But there's a difference. This is what I realized today. There's a difference between having that experience of victimization, right? And remaining in a consciousness of being a victim. And I feel like that is, and I know that's why in certain contexts, people have moved from calling someone a victim to a survivor, and I get that. The wording isn't enough though, right? I think someone has to decide for themselves, if somebody does something really bad and harmful to you, you're probably going to feel like a victim for a minute. And that's okay. But when you live in that place of this person hurt me and you remain, it's like you remain their victim, right? So I guess for me, it's how do I get to that place of, thinking about this other person. I was thinking through it today and I thought, yeah, she could have had my back. And yeah, she didn't need to do X, Y, Z. And also, she's an imperfect person just like we all are, with her own flaws and insecurities. And, people are allowed that, and we all make mistakes and act from that place. And also, I can see where she was treated not so great by other people. I don't know of any particular instance. Well, yeah, maybe I do actually. I think, we were both in a very toxic environment. And she was acting from that place. And how do I And I think I'm getting there. See her as that good person, that good and beautiful person that I knew she was when I first met her. And the reason that we hit it off so well, the first few times we talked, and, we just kind of thought, it's like we thought we were going to be just like besties. And then the situation was just a bad situation. And remembering that goodness, and all that she has to offer as a person in the world, and how do I wish her well and have compassion for her, and know that she was doing the best she could at the time, right? Yeah, I mean, and that's it. And then also moving away from, when you reach beyond that, not saying, oh, well, it wasn't her fault, it was their fault, right? Because he could have done this and he shouldn't have done this. And just really letting it all just be an experience, right? And realizing that when someone, literally this happened, one of these men in a staff meeting, like red-faced, screamed at me with just such anger, because I asked a question about something like pretty insignificant. I knew at that time, I was like, this has nothing to do with me. This is about some stuff he's got shoved down in him, and it's just coming out at me. And this isn't about me. And remembering that it's all like that, right? It's none of it's about me, right? The way this person that handled situations, that was about her. It was about where she was, in her place in this toxic system that wasn't treating her that great, and where she was with her life experiences, and her insecurities, and just all of that kind of stuff. Everybody is where they are, for better or for worse, and sometimes where we are hurts people, and it sucks. And when we are the ones who experience, when we're on the receiving end of that, right, of somebody else's stuff, right, and we're on the receiving end, and it hurts us, it causes us pain in our life, I think it's important to remember as best we can that it's ultimately not about us, right? How someone treats you is about them, right? If I yell and scream at someone because I'm upset with them, yeah, maybe they did something really stupid, right? But I could talk to them with love and compassion, right? Or I can yell and scream at them about, why the F did you do this? Blah, blah, blah. Those are choices that I make. And so how I treat that person in that moment, that's me. That's about me. And we want to make it about them, right? We want to make it about them. But it's not. It's about us. And so when somebody else does that to us, right? and somebody else is the one screaming or whatever it is, right? That's their stuff. It's their shit. And I guess the work is, this is the work to remember their, their oneness and their wholeness and their divinity that may be, right now their light may be hiding under a pile of crap, but it's there. It's there. It's right there. It's right there. And to just remember that and to, love them and let it go. And that's not to say, it's not to say stand there and take it. It's not to say stay in toxic situations or anything like that, right? You can walk away from something that is toxic. You can walk away from something that is not supporting your well-being, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. You can walk away flying two birds, if you know what I mean. Or you can walk away with your head held high and your heart open and I love you and I wish you well and I'm moving on, right? These are our choices to make. Trust me, I've left situations with the birds flying, right? I've made that choice. I have made that choice. And I've made the choice to leave with, I love you and I wish you well, and this doesn't serve me anymore. So I know both of those. Yeah, so I thank you. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far. I welcome comments, feedback, questions, shared experiences. I feel like just sharing this is helping me process it and work through it. And my hope is that when the day comes, and I'm pretty sure the day is going to come, and it might come sooner rather than later, that I run into this person, whether it's at a grocery store or whether it's at a spiritual gathering or, whatever it is. I know that our physical paths are going to cross again. And I don't want to meet this person with fear in my heart, with animosity, with any kind of negative feelings, right? I want to be able to look at this person and feel just that integrity of being, right? Solid in myself and present and hi, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm excited to hear things are going great for you. So that's my wish. And when that happens, I will let you know, right? Because that's what I'm doing. So again, thank you. And I wish you all well, and I wish you the best. And I will talk to you again soon.